300 exhibitors and over 2,000 travel professionals from all over the world. They come from all over the world to meet the travelling public of Ireland, and we have had a very, very good show here. I think our numbers are up considerably on last year. We've had 3 very, very busy days, and it's great to see such an interest in travel among the public, and it really, really excites the travel experts, because we have over 2,000 of them, believe it or not, in the hall. People from tour operators, cruise companies, and tourist boards, and regions and hotels, and all of that stuff. And they come to answer your questions. The whole point of this exercise of Holiday World Show is we'll give you real answers to questions, any queries that you have. We will usually be able to answer them from the stage here, because this is a little bit of a top-up, the icing on the cake of the show. We bring together some of the leading lights in the travel profession, and we get them to tease out trends, topics, tips, all of those sort of things, and we then throw it open to the floor to discussion. And if just raise your hand, it'll be we've roving microphones. If you're a bit shy, our panelists can be approached afterwards. They'll hang around for a bit and they'll answer a few questions. And it's generally worked that any question that has been thrown to us here, we've been able to answer. And if it happens that we can't answer it from the podium here, we'll direct you to somewhere in the hall where the question can be answered. We have a proud tradition of being able to get all the questions answered over the years that we've been doing this exercise, and it's been really, really good fun and very, very high quality information. We've dedicated this to a subject very close to my own heart, and very close to the heart of a lot of the consumer side of the industry. It's how solo travellers can get around without being fleeced. There are other phrases that people use, shaken down, things like that. But there is a problem, and it's an ongoing problem, and it's not a new problem within the entire travel industry. And it comes on the accommodation side rather than on the airline or side, that most of our hotels, accommodation, things like that, are built on what the technical term for it is called EP. It stands for European Plan. That's where hoteliers price their room per person sharing. And if you're to sum up the problem of the solo traveller, it's down to those 2 letters. Now, EP means that if you're travelling as a pair, as a couple, it all works out. You pay per person sharing. But it means that if you're not travelling as a couple, which a huge proportion of our travelling people are now, it means that you get saddled with either the price of another person that doesn't exist, or this wonderful thing called the single supplement, which is basically the same thing as the price of the person who doesn't exist. How do we get around that? What are the ways, the strategies of getting around it? We've written a lot, we've talked a lot on the media side about this down the years, and I don't see much has changed. But what I do see as having changed is that the promotions and the little things that are done for the solo traveller, they used to be basically Tuesday in February, we'll give you a no single supplement bonus. They threw it in at times when it was very difficult to travel or people didn't want to travel, and we've seen a little bit of more activity towards peak season and towards times when people actually do want to travel, where the solo traveller isn't shaken down or fleeced or whatever. But I'd be very interested in what the outcome of the next 30 or 40 minutes here, because all the people on the stage here are very knowledgeable on this and have put a lot of thought into it, and they're selling products to the consumer, but also from their point of view, they've been angling, how do, as a buyer and as a tour operator, do we get something viable and meaningful that will actually get solo travellers, give them some measure of fairness in what is an entire industry that seems to have been stacked unfairly against the solo traveller. I don't know if I'm being too extreme in my assessment here, but we'll be able to tease that out. We've got two people from Inside Vacations. They're a tour operator, the Brian Hynes and Sharon Jordan, and we have Jeanette Taylor from Sunways. Sunways are the largest Irish-owned tour operator, and they do a huge variety of, from your traditional bucket and spade summer destination to very, very exotic Far Eastern destinations, and they also have a very strong presence in countries like Morocco and Sardinia and places like that. So we'll get to tease out what is on offer, but the focus of everything we're going to talk about in the next 40 minutes is that value for the solo traveller. Sharon is here I'm going to ask her to lead in, and Brian, she says that her voice mightn't hold for the entire statement. I'm going to get her to lead in, and Brian is there as the what would you call it, the impact sub. Brian, you're the guy who comes on when Sharon gets injured and takes over to play for the rest of the match. But do feel free to join in, and Jeanette will be bringing into the discussion as well. It is a three-way discussion. Okay, thank you very much. Sharon, you're off.
Okay, I suppose just following on from what Eoghan said there, I mean, one of the key things for us is to point out that we're not in the business of fleecing anybody. It's basically what we have to charge is what we're being charged ourselves. So we're always looking for different ways to get around it, how we can work it out. As Eoghan rightly said, in Europe, you end up having the situation where it's a per person charge that happens. Obviously, that's quite different in America. You'd see in America, you've got room charges, so you've got room-only prices.
You pay for one room, whether there's 18 people in it or not.
Definitely.
Like the man from the tenements there.
I mean, everyone knows you go to Vegas, you get these really big rooms and it's the one price. But in Europe, it's completely different, because if you look at the likes of Italy, you've got these really small hotels, really historic hotels that have very small numbers of rooms. So they're going to charge a premium for their rooms. And the only way we can get around that as tour operators is trying to fiddle the system a little bit. And how we tend to do that is obviously, as Eoghan said, offer no single supplements in the off-season, so in the start of the season or the end of the season. Now, I know Eoghan touched on we've been trying to move away from that, because it's not fair that we as solar travellers are getting, for a better word, the crappy dates, because that's not what we want. I mean, most people want to travel when it's not raining. Most people want to travel when the sun is shining. So we're looking at different ways to get around that. And one of the things that's kind of come out in the last few years is this trend for sharing a room. So if you're willing to share with someone that you don't know, you can avoid having a single supplement. And for me, I find that absolutely fascinating, because I'll travel with anybody. I just love to get away. So I'm very happy to not pay a single supplement and to go on the dates that I like to go. But what invariably happens when you do that is, if they can't match you, then you get it for free. So I will always say to people, don't pay a single supplement until you get to the hotel. And if you decide, say when we get there and they pair me with Jeanette, and I look at her and go, I'm not going to spend a week with that lady, then I will pay my single supplement. But if I look at her and go, this could be a new friend, we'll spend the week together, then we're getting it for free.
You have to get up early in the morning to keep up with Sharon Jordan. She's very clever. Jeanette, from Sunways' point of view, you've got this, you must, as a tour operator, identify this massive, big spending market who really have this, it's almost a begrudgery now at this stage, that they just feel that they're not being taken seriously. From your point of view, what are you seeing? Are you seeing, as Sharon said, you don't make up the prices, that's what you're charged.
Yeah, exactly.
But are you seeing anything to bring the pendulum back?
We have a lot of customers who want to travel alone for all sorts of reasons. You know, they might be on, say, a G Adventure or an escorted tour. They just might want to go to Morocco for a week, or Portugal. And it really gives you the freedom to do what you want, really. So we always have something to offer the solo traveller. Again, what Sharon touched on with something like escorted tours, if there is an option there for sharing, And if you don't want that, you can, dip in and out of the tours. You don't actually have to. We have certain tours that you can travel alone and you can do your own thing in the evenings. So it gives you that freedom to do that. We also do a lot with cruising. We've got a lot of sole occupancy rates for cruisers, especially with NCL on the Epic. They've like solo lounges. So if you are traveling alone, you can go into the lounge, meet other travelers who are looking for the exact same as you, and you can organize to travel together tomorrow to do an excursion. So it gives you a lot of freedom with that. So Sunway are very dedicated to the solo traveller, and we have a lot to offer them worldwide, really.
I'm open to questions from the floor because this is your session. I'm not going to be asking all the questions. Put your hand up and we'll get a question from all of the panelists. We'll get answers to any of your questions. We'll do our best. Anybody, hands up. Sharon, I know in the 1980s, like Explore, Exodus, I'm mentioning your competitors now, that was the basic way they worked. If they had a single booking, they matched them randomly.
Yeah.
And is that still the case through the entire, I'm not asking you to comment about your competitors, but is that the trend through the industry of the escorted coach tour, that you will match solo people up?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, the likes of an escorted tour holiday is the perfect holiday for a solo traveller because you get to make friends, you're not travelling alone. I remember when I started solo travelling years ago, I went off to the likes of Mallorca on my own, I went off to Ibiza on my own, and it can be quite daunting, and then also you have the safety side of things that you'd be worried about as a woman travelling on my own. Am I going to be safe? Am I going to be, getting into a taxi and the taxi man says, now we're going to charge her double price because she's on her own and she's not, these things happen. So through the escorted touring business, it is a big trend that's there, and it exists in all of them.
It's one of the attractions of escorted tours.
Absolutely, and it is a trend through all of them, whether it's Contiki holidays, which is 18 to 35s, right through to whether it is Inside Vacations, which is on the premium side of things. But it is a definite trend of solo travellers travelling together, being matched. And we always say, like we do, I know we've our stand here, but at our guest appreciation nights, we always talk to past guests that have travelled with us before, and they have made lifelong friends. I mean, they spend Christmas together. They it's incredible the people that you can meet, and especially when you're doing a escorted tour, you're meeting people from all over the world, whether it's America, Canada, Australia, and you've got these for me personally, I get Christmas cards from all over the world just because I've gone off and travelled in this fashion, and it's just if you enjoy not having the responsibility of having to look after other people, it is my favourite way to travel.
And Jeanette, are there places, are there countries better fitted for the solo traveller than others in the way that they operate? Because Sharon mentioned America's entire hotel pricing structure is completely different. Are there countries that are good for solo travellers than better than others?
My first one that comes to mind is actually Morocco. Morocco, the hoteliers do offer, rooms for one person with no single occupancy supplement at all. We have a few as well in a lot of other European destinations, Sardinia, Portugal, Mallorca. So again, a lot of it is about early booking because, they tend to book out quite quickly. But we have it really available on most of our destinations.
Is France better than Spain? Is Italy better than...
Not necessarily. I couldn't give a preference on any of them. Morocco does stand out a little bit more because
I know that the French hotel, one of the big hotel differences is that France would be more dominated by big chains than Germany. Germany would be a very individual hotel. Italy would be family-owned, a lot of that.
Yeah.
But I noticed there's more of an American thing in French hotels than there is in the other European countries where the room comes as your charge. Whether that's actually a benefit for solo travellers, I'm not sure, but it does mean that because obviously if you're travelling with two paying people, you divide the room cost by two. But at least when you see a price, you're not deluded and you don't get hit with that solo supplement. Yeah. And I think it's because France is dominated by particularly the Accor group and big chains own most of the hotels in France. Questions from the audience? We have one here in the front row.
I find when you go to the airport on your own, it can be quite an intimidating place, especially with the security. And the other thing is, Ireland is the same. the other countries, especially when you're traveling by yourself. So you want to go to Galway for a weekend, the hotel's always uneven, they're being charged a bit more if you go by yourself.
You're absolutely right. Alone in an airport, a solo traveller in an airport is going to have a different reaction than somebody travelling in a group. It's downstages you've itemised. The other thing is that you are more prone to look lost and trying to find your way. Have you come out of the right gate? And all of that, and it does make you more vulnerable to the predatory people that Sharon was saying. Safety is a thing when you're, especially for women. I would imagine, but it's safety for everyone. And the other thing is, the point is very, very valid, is that Irish hotels operate under the European plan system. All of those massive number of hotel rooms which we built during the boom, all of the hotel business plans were based on a per person sharing cost. Now I do notice, and it's maybe a fruit of the recession, that we have more of them room pricing now than we did before. Maybe that's one of the benefits that came out of having to look in the mirror and say, what are we doing to ourselves, that Irish hoteliers went through. Is there a question from the floor here?
Can I just say, just on that, sorry, Owen, I'm cutting in. I'm just
No.
giving everybody time
The
to
question was for you guys. I just took it because it was Irish and you're both outbound, so my apologies.
Well, I'm going to answer two sides of that. The first one, when you're travelling alone, when I travel alone, I always make sure that I book into an airport lounge. Most lounges across the world will cost you €20. For that, you get food, you get drink, and you get security.
Yeah.
And you also get called to your gate when it's time to go, so you can sit there and read your Kindle, enjoy the newspaper.
And you can charge up your phone and your laptop.
Absolutely. The prices in airports, as we know, are phenomenal. When you go to buy a coffee and a sandwich, you're paying €20 anyway. So to go to the lounge, have a gin
and generally
tonic,
they come in around €20, don't they, Sharon?
Generally about €20. I mean, London is slightly different, but generally across Europe and America, you're talking about €20. It's a really, really nice thing to do for yourself as well, because it's a nice little treat. And when you're travelling on your own, you've got to treat yourself. That's my opinion.
But it also relaxes you, because airports are hassly places. And priority pass is an option as well. Sorry, Brian. Poor Brian is sitting there and being ignored.
Just been thinking about what kind of advice we could give to people, solo travellers. It is a massive growth area for all the tour operators. I would say the main thing to take from it would be flexible. If you want price parity and you don't want to pay the supplement, you have to be flexible. I.e., as Sharon said, if you're happy to share with another female or another male, depending on your sex, express that. You may get the room yourself. Yeah. Obviously, the price point then will be exactly the same. On dates, I know ourselves, we will have dates and departures on the website for solo supplements, where we will give them for free, where we will reduce them by 50, 60, 90%. So if you have flexibility and you don't want to pay the supplement, definitely be as flexible as possible, and there's ways of getting around paying supplements for solo travellers.
And does that apply to dates as well, Brian, do you think?
It'll be selected dates on selected tours, on selected departures. Again, if you're fully flexible and the dates match, fantastic, and that's a way of getting price parity.
Yeah.
Another thing, can I just say one thing? With solo traveling, say for example, with Escortia Tours, there are certain dates, say like on our escorted tours, that we don't have sole occupancy supplement, and if you do, say on this match one, and it doesn't work out, or say the other person doesn't show up or whatever, you're actually not charged for the room when you go. So that's just one nice thing to keep in mind as well.
So it's another option that you might come lucky on.
Yeah, and another thing I think is, say with tours for solo travellers, the currency in a lot of countries would be a big problem. It'd be like, that's why I think it's very good if you are solo travelling, say to China. You don't know the laws
Absolutely.
with the money, or the barriers you'll come up against with, losing credit cards or something. So that's why it's always good. We find a big demand with solo travellers on these sort of tours.
We have a question here from the third last row.
So you guys mentioned travelling as a female and security and stuff like that, and escorted tours. And I'm just wondering, if I were to, say, book a tour, how far do you guys go? And what's included in that? So is like transport from airport to the hotel I've booked included?
It would be everything. It would be like from point to point, really. But that's why early booking is very advisable on a lot of these.
Could you give us an overview of your escorted tour at Sunway, your escorted tour program there, Jeanette?
We deal with Trafalgar, and like it's a worldwide program. So you would European, worldwide. But again, we do find if people, like they can be booked out sometimes up to like 8 months in advance. So if you wanted to do, say, the Great Wall of China, you know, and you really want to go there, you're looking at that time frame. So the early booking is advisable on all these tours.
And Sharon, the inside experience?
So in an inside experience, you will arrive at the airport and you'll be picked up on arrival, and you'll be brought onto our lovely coaches, which are right down the back of the hall here tonight if you want to go on. We're finishing off a few bottles of Prosecco. You're very welcome to join us with that.
There's an invitation.
And you're picked up and you're brought to your hotel and you're looked after all the way through. So a lot of your meals will be included, your breakfast every day. Some days you get lunch, some days you won't, because everybody's different and everybody wants to see different parts of different cities, and some people have been to some of the cities before, so they want to go off and do their own thing, and then other people haven't and they'll really want to do nice in-depth things. But you're literally looked after from your tour director, your accommodation, your food, your tours are included. So it's literally a very, very nice, safe way to travel. But if we go back to what we were talking about in terms of the single supplement discounts, it also depends on the product you want to go on. For example, like river cruising, a big part of the cruising market now. River cruising's low season is July and August, and July and August is when us Irish like to travel, right, because we get the weather. So that's a good time to be looking at doing something like a river cruise, because it's actually May and September is their peak season. So you'll always get no single supplements in July and August for the likes of a river cruising, which
is a really good tip.
Yeah. So it's like it just depends on the type of holiday you're looking at.
And Brian, overview of the escorted tour. It's quite complicated. There's so many products, and I know Sharon has mentioned Insight, and you're representing Insight. But if you could back off that and give us a sort of an overview of how do you read a brochure for an escorted tour company? What should you look for? Things like what sort of hotel, how central, all of those. Yeah. Are they the things you should be looking for?
Absolutely. I won't touch on Insight too much, but each tour company will have its own unique proposition, standard-wise. Some will compete on price, some will compete on standard like ourselves of hotels. What you need to look for is inclusions, i.e. your sightseeing. Is it a case
you might be hit for an extra charge somewhere along the way?
You could be, is it a case you're just being
brought... Or an admission into the Vatican or something, yeah.
You could be just a case you're being brought from A to B without sightseeing included, and the price might look very competitive, but you then have to pay when you get there. Dinners, breakfast, transfers, anything that could be additional to bump the cost up.
Right.
Make sure you're comparing like with like when you're kind of viewing maybe.
There might be a night that the meal isn't in or something like that, yeah.
Absolutely, and you'll see the price points between one tour and another, and it's got to do with standard and inclusions. And I would say with a escorted touring, you're never generally going to get a tour that does exactly what you want. You have to be, again, a little bit more flexible and find a tour where it has the right balance, a bit more free time for your own activities, and maybe cover places that you are not necessarily going to be brought on the tour.
And the journey is important, the seat pitch, isn't it? You know, the number of seats.
The coaches from ourselves would be a maximum of 40. Some coaches could 52 upwards. Right. So if you're tall or you like a bit of space, you have to pick the tour that suits your needs.
Great. Jeanette, are things getting better for solo travellers in your experience?
I think so.
You've been watching this. You've been working this industry for.
I think it's a very unique way to travel. I mean, we all have different ideas of relaxation or what suits us. You know, some couples would love to go mountain climbing, the other one to go for a walk. So, some people don't want to maybe have a widower or anything like that. So we are seeing a surge in, I think people are just a little bit more, aware that the tour operator and the travel agents have deals for, like, we're not penalising people for going on holidays. We want them to go, we want them to enjoy it.
Last question, anybody want to come in here? No, yeah.
What travel agent are you?
Who am I?
What travel agent are you?
I'm a travel writer. I'm independent. I write about travel and commentate about travel. The two tour operators we have on the stage are very important. Sunway, largest of the Irish tour operators,
Sunway
and
Holidays,
Insight Vacations is Sharon Jordan. So Insight, INSIGHT. And we have a question here, I think. Yeah.
Is it possible for somebody very small like me to have a seat at the front? Because I've spent so long looking at the backs of people's heads.
I think for yourself, Owen, I think what generally happens on the tours, I'll speak about ourselves, is you'll have a seat allocated when you get on, and the tour director then will rotate the seat. So you'll kind of start at the front or start at the back and rotate. So you don't need to put your towel down and first thing in the morning to come back to it. You're going to be rotated.
And at Trafalgar, do they rotate in Trafalgar, Jeanette?
Yes, they do.
Yeah, great.
Yeah. It's a good way then of like meeting everybody else on the bus as well. You know, you're not with the same person.
Yeah.
And chat to the driver on the way.
Yeah.
And last question then, Sharon, I'll ask the same question I asked Jeanette there. Are things getting better or worse?
Oh, they're definitely getting better, yeah. Irish people in general are getting more well-travelled, we're becoming more independent, and because of that there is a huge demand for the solo traveller, and it's something, as Jeanette touched on, I mean, Sunway takes it very seriously, and every company takes it very seriously now because it is the future of travel. More and more of us are travelling alone, more and more of us are sick of bringing other people and making sure they're happy and not making sure we're happy first and foremost, so it's definitely something that is on the rise, absolutely.
Thank you very much to my marvellous panel. I hope you've enjoyed the conversation as much as I did.
Thanks, guys.
It's been a very good day, and thank you for making it a good show. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Owen.
Thanks very much. Star, your voice was great. That's so much. Thanks very much, and thanks for. Sorry not for operating.